What's up, everybody? It's Jordan from the Sports Behind Show. The NFL season is getting ready to close. I'm going to be doing all-season reviews for every NFL team. The Chicago Bears had the first pick in the 2023 draft, so I'm going to be doing a video doing an off-season review of the Chicago Bears. I'm going to be doing a free agency mock. I'm going to be kind of picking who I think the Bears might target in free agency. I'm going to be doing a 3-year mock draft from Pro Football Focus. And I will be kind of doing a record prediction based on the moves I do in this video. So let's go ahead and get started here. Last season, the Chicago Bears were 3-14 under first-year head coach Matt Eberflus. And when you look at the Chicago Bears, they need a lot of team needs, especially in the offensive line and the defensive line. Their team needs, like I said, offensive line, defensive line, and they could use some more edge, and they can also use maybe another wide receiver or two. With Nicholas Bears' team, they could not protect Justin Fields last year, and they could not sack the quarterback. They were dead last on quarterback sacks on defense, and they gave up the most sacks of any team in the NFL this past season. So that has to be emphasis for them to try to attack getting offensive linemen and defensive linemen, because that's definitely their two weaknesses heading into the 2023 offseason. Bears have by far the most cap space of any team in the NFL. And here's some players I have the Bears re-signing in the offseason. I had them re-signing David Montgomery to a two-year deal worth $8 million per season. Montgomery kind of had a disappointing year this past season. He had a career low in rushing yards, career low in rushing touchdowns. He had the fewest targets of any season of his career. He had the fewest total yards since his rookie season. But it's been well known that the Bears are wanting to bring him back. I've seen kind of some mock contracts that have him getting 13 or maybe even 14. To me, I think that is just way too high. I think 2 for 16, 8 per year would be a good deal for both sides here. Getting him back would be really nice for Chicago, because he's one of the Bears, fan favorites. So Montgomery, I have him re-signing on a 2-year deal. This next signing here, I know some people won't like, but I had them re-signing Riley Reiff to a 1-year deal worth $4 million. Like I said, their offensive line was terrible last season. Reiff wasn't great. He was kind of serviceable. Like, he wasn't great or by any means. He wasn't terrible by any means. He was just kind of a serviceable, average right tackle for Chicago last season. But, he's getting up there in age. And to me, I don't think this would be a bad idea for Chicago if they were to sign maybe Riley Reiff to a 1-year deal. Maybe they drafted tackle early in the draft, have Reiff start this year, and then the following season starts, that tackle that they drafted early will be ready to start. He kind of gets mentored by Reiff, a guy who's been around the league for quite some time. I don't think that would be a bad idea at all. I think that's something the Chicago Bears should definitely consider. But I have Reiff signing with Chicago on a 1-year deal worth $4 million. Somebody else I have the Chicago Bears getting re-signed by the Bears is linebacker Nicholas Morrow. Last season, Morrow signed a 1-year deal with the Bears, and I feel like that signing for both sides really paid off. I wouldn't be surprised that maybe Chicago signs him on another 1-year deal to see if he can improve what he did last year again. Last year, he was phenomenal for Chicago, one of the bright spots on defense. He had 116 tackles. He was all over the field for Chicago. With Roquan Smith being gone this past season, Morrow really stepped up to the plate and played really well for the Bears. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they bring Nicholas Morrow back on another 1-year deal. And also, the final person I have them re-signing is their long snapper, Patrick Scales. Patrick Scales has been with them since 2015. I feel like you're better off just keeping him. He's familiar with the team. He knows the locker room. He has much experience, with their special teams players. So I have them signing Patrick Scales to a 1-year contract worth $2 million. Like I said, the Chicago Bears have by far the most cap space of any team in the NFL. And some of these signings, I feel like they should really go after some of these big names guys. And I think one of them is Daron Payne. Daron Payne was amazing this year for Washington. He had a career high in pretty much everything, it seems like. He had 11.5 sacks this past season. That's over half what the entire Chicago Bears team had this past season. The Chicago Bears team as a whole had 20. Daron Payne had 11.5. That's embarrassing for the Chicago defense. They really need somebody like Payne who can, help their, sacks and everything like that, get to the quarterback. But he had 11.5 sacks this past season. He's had 26 in his 5-year career. He had 18 tackles for loss this past season. That is by far a career high for him. And when you already look at the Bears, they need defensive line. They could really use defensive tackle. Daron Payne's one of the best players on the market, not even just at defensive tackle, one of the better players on the defensive side of the ball on the market. I think 3 for 45 would not be bad at all for Chicago. With the Bears having the most cap space in the league, I feel like they have to take full advantage of that. And Chicago's not had a ton of success these past couple of years. And when you look at some of these top guys like Deron Payne, I don't think it would be a bad thing if they maybe overpay them just a tad bit if they can get some of those guys. Because a guy like Deron Payne would be a huge piece to this Bears team for the next several years and be a big part of them on defense. And he's the guy you can kind of build your defense around. So I think getting Deron Payne for 3 for 45 would be an amazing deal if Chicago is able to get it done. Another signing I would love if Chicago did. I don't know if they will do it because he's one of the top players on the market. You might even say he's the top player in the entire market in the offseason. That is offensive tackle Orlando Brown. Orlando Brown is one of the best linemen in the NFL. He's one of the better players in the NFL. I have them signing him for a 3-year deal worth $75 million. You know, him and the Kansas City Chiefs have kind of had contract negotiations, and they've not been, great. They did not get a long-term extension done. If you're able to get Orlando Brown, that would be amazing for Justin Fields because you do not want him getting hurt again like they did this past season. Like I said, Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears team, the Bears gave up the most sacks last year. Getting Orlando Brown will change that. One of the best offensive tackles in the league. If you're able to get him, that's going to change your offensive line tremendously for the better. But Orlando Brown here, 3 years for $75 million, $25 per year. I know some people might think that's an overpay, but like I said, when you're getting some of these top guys, you might have to overpay them just a little bit since you have that money and everything. But that would be a great signing for the Chicago Bears. Another signing I have the Bears doing is not a household name by any means. I have them signing edge rusher Clelin Ferrell. Ferrell was a first-round pick drafted by the Raiders several years ago. He's played 4 years in the league and has just 10 sacks. He's not even been remotely close to living up to his first-round talent. He was a top 10 pick. He's been a bust so far, but I think a change of scenery would not be bad for Clelin Ferrell. It's just an extra body at edge. Like I said, edge is kind of a team need for the Chicago Bears. I don't think getting a guy like Ferrell, who's been around the league for a couple years now, would be a bad idea for the Chicago Bears. Another guy here I have the Bears signing is wide receiver DJ Chark. DJ Chark, to me, is one of the more underrated receivers in the league. This past season for Detroit, he had 30 receptions for over 500 yards. He had over 16 yards per reception. That's very, very impressive. And I know his receptions were down a ton compared to his years with Jacksonville, but, the Lions had one of the better wide receiver corps in the league. It was kind of hard for him to get the ball at times, but getting DJ Chark, I have him signing with Chicago for a 1-year deal worth $8 million. Getting Justin Fields another target. When you have, Chark, Claypool, and Darnell Mooney, all of a sudden, when you look at the Chicago Bears wide receiver trio, it's one of the more impressive ones in the NFL. I feel like this would be really, really good for Justin Fields to get him another target. And one final free agent I have the Chicago Bears going after is defensive tackle Larry Ogunjobi. Ogunjobi and the Bears were going to sign a 3-year contract last offseason, but Ogunjobi failed his physical and ended up, signing with the Steelers months later. Ogunjobi, to me, I don't think he's really appreciated enough. I think he's much better than his stats indicate. When you go back and watch the 2021 season with the Bengals and the run of the Super Bowl, I don't think people realize how important Larry Ogunjobi was to that Bengals defense. He was phenomenal. He was all over the field, making tackles for loss, pressuring the quarterback, getting some sacks. The Bears clearly had interest in Larry Ogunjobi last season. I feel like they might have interest in him again, and that's somebody else who can really help this defensive line for the Chicago Bears. But, when you're looking at these free agents I had the Bears signing, I have them signing Deron Payne for a 3-year deal worth $45 million, Orlando Brown to a 3-year deal worth $75 million, $25 per year, Clelin Ferrell to a 1-year contract worth $3 million, DJ Chark a 1-year deal worth $8 million, and I also have them sign Larry Ogunjobi to a 1-year deal worth $5 million. Kind of doing a mock draft here from PFF. I have them doing a 3-round mock draft. The first overall pick, I had the Bears selecting edge rusher from Alabama, Will Anderson. Like I said, this Bears defense is atrocious. They need somebody who can get to the quarterback, and I feel like Anderson does that for Chicago. In 3 years with Alabama, he has 58.5 tackles for loss. He has 34.5 sacks. That is insane. In just 3 years. That is crazy. He's a guy who can be your best player on defense for the next decade. He's a guy you can build your defense around. Getting Anderson would be great at number 1. I know some people might want Carter at number 1, but to me, I feel like Will Anderson's probably the best player on the board here. There's definitely a possibility that the Bears could trade back. I don't think that'd be a bad idea at all either. Getting some more draft capital for a team who's in the rebuilding stage, that would be, kind of a great idea for Chicago to decide to trade back. They have a second-round pick with the 54th pick overall. They do not have their original second-round pick, the 33rd pick, because that belongs to the Steelers because with that Chase Claypool trade. But their second-round pick, 54th overall, I have them drafting right tackle DeJuan Jones from Ohio State. He is massive. He is a monster. He would do wonders for this Chicago Bears offensive line. He is 6'8", 360, and that's not crazy enough. He had the highest wingspan ever at the Senior Bowl, measuring 89.5 inches. That is insane. Over half his starts in college were at right tackle. And it's kind of like I said earlier with Riley Reef. I don't think it would be a bad idea to sign Riley Reef to a one-year deal. Maybe have, him start, and you're having this guy like DeJuan Jones slowly develop in the following season. He takes over, or maybe Jones starts midway through the year, and, Reef's there for kind of like a mentor type of deal. But DeJuan Jones, to me, I think he'd probably be best player available here with the 54th pick overall. But this is a great selection if the Bears are able to get him with the 54th selection. The 64th pick overall with their third-round selection, I had them drafting TCU corner Tre'Vius Hodges Tomlinson. He's one of the better corners here. He's honestly one of the better players here available. He has 5 interceptions and 22 passes defended the last 2 years. He's been voted as an All-American. And I know corner might not be a desperate need, but when you look at the teams who have success, they always draft best player available. That's part of the reason why the Patriots have been good for so long. It's that they don't draft team needs, they draft best player available. I feel like getting Tomlinson here would be really good for this Bears team because you've already attacked the offensive line, you've already attacked the defensive line. Getting more help in the secondary, I feel like would be really good for Chicago. But I feel like this draft here for Chicago would be really, really good. Getting a guy like Will Anderson, DeJuan Jones, and Tre'Vius Hodges Tomlinson. Based on the moves I did for the Bears in this video, when you look at the 2023 schedule, I feel like they could be pretty decent if they're able to do most of these moves I have them doing. They play the Lions, Packers, Vikings, Falcons. I feel like they can maybe win 2 of those games. When you look at the Panthers, Broncos, Raiders, Lions, I feel like they can probably win about 2 of those games. Packers, Chiefs, Chargers, Vikings, maybe 1. And then the Saints, Buccaneers, Cardinals, Browns, and Washington, I feel like they may win 2 or 3. When looking at this Bears team, based on the moves I did in this video, I feel like they're capable of being 7-10 in the 2023 season, and that's not bad for a team who had the first pick. You're doubling your win total from the year before, and if the Bears are able to do these moves in this video, I feel like they could have a very, very bright future, with Justin Fields as their starting quarterback. But let me know what you think about the moves I did for Chicago in this video. Comment who you want the Bears to draft in the 2023 draft. That about does it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. If you're new to the channel or seen videos before, make sure to subscribe to my channel. I like this video. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time on the Sports 2 Hine Show.